This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to the Handicappers Report, or the Racing Across America. Just wound up the Handicappers Report. Racing Across America for it this Tuesday morning. I'm Seth Merrill. Thanks for joining me on a chilly Tuesday morning. So chilly, in fact, that again, 3 tracks have canceled for this afternoon. Parks, Charlestown, and Beulah all have canceled due to the weather, as well as Monticello on the harness side. So the weather taking a little bit of a toll on racing in the United States, as much of the, well, probably east of the Mississippi at least, has been affected by the situation. The cold weather here that we're experiencing supposed to last up in our area at least through tomorrow, I think, and then moderate when we get into Thursday. So, and again, Thursday's when Aqueduct returns. New York Racing, don't forget, they had kind of the extended holiday week last week, starting on New Year's Eve, went through Sunday. Now they don't come back at Aqueduct until Thursday, and then they'll kick into their new winter schedule, which is Thursday through Monday. So again, Aqueduct New York Racing comes back on Thursday. This morning on the show, we will be joined by Teresa Gennaro, Brooklyn Backstretch, also writes for Forbes.com, The Pink Sheet, Blood Horse, various publications. Tried to get Teresa last week as we were doing some of the 2013 recap, tied into some of the articles she wrote at the various publications over the year, and tied into some of what she saw as her highlights for 2013. She was down in Florida last week, though. A little bit of envy over here on this side of the table, but back in New York now. We'll touch base with her later this morning again as we recap some of the action from 2013 highlights. We were going to be joined by Gary Johnson as Beulah Park. Gary is a regular Tuesday guest. He's been off for 2 or 3 weeks now as Beulah took a little bit of a holiday break. They were supposed to come back starting this week, but the weather has affected them, so we'll get Gary in the mix again next week. But no such weather problems out at Turf Paradise. We will be joined, as we usually are on Tuesdays, bottom of the hour, bottom of our television hour, with Michael Chamberlain. Turf Paradise, some conversation about their racing this afternoon. So all of that coming up on Racing Across America on this Tuesday morning. Give you a little heads up on some of the promotions coming up here at Capital OTB in the month of January. There's an online show Viver contest on January 18th. There is another edition of the Monday Night Boxing coming up on January 20th. That's been a monthly event here, and it's been pretty well attended. And from the folks I've talked to who have been here, good crowds, everybody's enjoyed it. I think this is probably the 4th, maybe even the 5th month that we've had the boxing down here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. But again, coming up this month, it'll be January 20th. January 24th, do want to have you keep in mind, coming up towards the end of the month, we'll certainly remind you plenty before that, but another happy hour bankroll here at the Clubhouse Racebook. That will take place, again, January 24th, and I believe Brian Nadeau will be back in. He was in here about a week ago, this past Friday it was, and had a very good day with his bankroll. So the folks who were randomly selected to participate all got a little bit of money in their account. So certainly some nice promotions coming up at Capital OTB in the month of January. Talked a little bit yesterday about the U.S. wagering figures for 2013, up incrementally. And that was, as I say, I think given what happened in December, you could look at a very modest increase for the year-long totals, a modest increase of, I believe it was 0.6% in 2013. But given that numbers were down over 10% in December, that was pretty good. And as I wondered yesterday, I think the 10 days that Parks was on the sidelines certainly had to affect things greatly in December. Because Parks, you know, it's not necessarily an A track, but I think they're out there. They're there every day, so I think a lot of people, that's a track they normally play. So I think their handle probably, 10 days pulled out like that. And they didn't have a chance to do, some tracks will lose some days and then, hey, let's add a race here or there, or let's try to fill in a day. And these happened in a situation, and there was 10 straight days, particularly at the end of the year. You're not going to make those up. So that money, that Parks money was just sucked right out of the national handle on a year-to-year basis. So I think given that there was an incremental positive in 2013, given what we saw in December, I thought those were positive numbers. But there was definitely positive numbers on the harness side. Harness racing in the United States wagering was up 6%, a little over 6%. Purses were up 4%. Statistics were released this week by the United States Trotting Association. So those are pretty good numbers. You're up 6%. That's certainly a positive. So on the sulky side of things, some good numbers as far as the handle in 2013. Blood Horse article came out within the past day looking at the Florida situation. Headline is more head-to-head racing in South Florida, question mark. And it starts out saying that both Calder and Gulfstream have sent to the state regulators their schedules for the next 12 months, and they are still looking at head-to-head situations starting in July, which is when the schedules are popping out. And that is certainly a situation that we've said before is not good, and the schedules they're throwing out there indicates it will continue. But, and again, based on the headline and the opening paragraph, you would think this is not a good situation. However, it does note in the article what has been noted over the past couple of weeks. There are some hopes that things could sort themselves out in Florida as the groups are talking, and it is noted in this article, besides the groups just talking, there was perhaps the positive that there was some reports Frank Stronach has made an appearance over at Calder for a tour of that track. Obviously, Frank Stronach, owner of Gulfstream Park. So with Frank over there, maybe it's an interesting development, an interesting little twist in that. And so again, they both put in schedules that indicate head-to-head again in 2014, Calder and Gulfstream. But there are some signs that maybe that will be mitigated a little bit, and things could sort themselves out, which we have our fingers crossed for, because it is not going to be a positive situation if that goes forward for too much longer. It's I said a couple of weeks ago when the numbers came out that Claiming Crown Day, the Claiming Crown weekend, against what were some nice stakes races over at Calder. Gulfstream with the Claiming Crown, nice stakes races over at Calder, and the handle at Gulfstream that weekend just dwarfed what was done over at Calder. So again, it's not going to wind up to be good for anybody, this head-to-head situation down there in South Florida. Good news, however, and Mike Welch, who was on Loose on the Lead with us on Sunday, gave us a little heads up on this back on Sunday. Groupie Doll, it was announced, will be sent to Tapit for her initial mating upon her retirement, and that's coming up later. She goes to Tapit. We'll certainly all be anxious to see in a few years down the road the Groupie Doll Tapit offspring get to the track. However, even more important, 6-year-old Groupie Doll scheduled to make one more start. As we said, Mike Welch had talked to Buff Bradley. Buff was looking forward to Groupie Doll appearing down at Gulfstream Park and potentially making a start there. This article that has just come out in the Racing Form says they're looking at a couple of different races for the career finale for Groupie Doll, but we will get to see her one more time. She'll either start in the Grade 3 Hurricane Birdie on February 9th at Gulfstream, or over in the Grade 2 Santa Monica Stakes, January 25th at Santa Anita Park. But as of right now, unless some hiccup shows up on the radar screen, Groupie Doll will be back on the track for one more start, so that'll be fun for everybody. That will certainly attract a lot of attention. And speaking of great race mayors, horses that attracted attention and became fan favorites, and horses that may become or will certainly with the crazy Zenyatta fan base. Zenyatta's baby is now 2 years old. The LA Times did a little piece on her. I have it linked over on Equidaily, where you can in fact see the 2-year-old offspring of Zenyatta, a little bit of a video over there. Again, it's an LA Times article. And 2010 Horse of the Year, Zenyatta. her first offspring, now 2 years old, and is beginning early training in Florida. The name of the horse, Cosmic One. So Cosmic One getting started on the racetrack, and as noted, with the crazed fan base that was out there, Zenyatta and Rachel Alexandra, and all the controversy that was thrown up there on the internet among the fan bases of those two. It's going to be fun to see, and certainly will attract some social media attention when their offspring hit the track. And it looks like Cosmic One, the first foal from Zenyatta, is on the way to the racetrack, having begun some training in Florida. John Sheriffs, who was the trainer of Zenyatta, was quoted as saying, Cosmic One, he looks very good, and the farm has gotten very good reports. So anxiously awaiting the Zenyatta offspring to make its first start on the racetrack. Interesting article out of the Courier-Journal, another one that I have linked over on Equidaily today, and you can check it out. There was a rule change going back a few months ago. Actually, I think we're going back to the end of 2012. It may have just been implemented this year. I'm not sure, but it was the Racing Commission in Kentucky changed their rules that Racing Commission veterinarians would be the ones who would take over the administration of Lasix, taking it out of the hands of the private practitioners. And this article is kind of a follow-up on that. If you remember early on, there was some kind of snafus in this new system with horses having to be scratched. I think there was one that got a double shot of Lasix. There was maybe one that was missed. There was just some situations where I don't think they had the proper procedures maybe set up. They tweaked and got things right. Since then, those kind of situations seem to have gone away. But more importantly, this article in the Courier-Journal says that the rule change has brought about some interesting results. It talks to the folks who are members of the commission who are kind of administrating these shots and keeping tracks of subsequently how the shots are administered, and interaction with the horse people. Horse people, from this article, seem okay with this, but more importantly, the folks who are administering things, the Racing Commission folks, seem to think this is actually cleaning up the game in some ways. They're intimating, if not outright saying in the article, that the Racing Commission veterinarians, as they administer Lasix, are being asked by trainers to break the rules and administer something else, or give the Lasix shot in a way that is not approved. Of course, the Racing Commission veterinarians won't do that, won't break the rules, but it's interesting that they noted, that it's funny that these trainers seem to think that the rules don't apply, and then they hypothesize that this probably put the private veterinarians in tough spots when they came out and worked and were being paid by these trainers. When they were asked, similar requests were made to them to kind of push the envelope a little bit. So it's interesting. Again, you can read the entire article, courierjournal.com, the Louisville Courier-Journal. I have it linked on Equidaily, article by Greg Hall of the Courier-Journal, and talks about this change with the Kentucky rules and how they think maybe it is in some fashion helping to clean up the game a little bit. Just the new way that Lasix shots are being administered, being done now, again, by Racing Commission veterinarians as opposed to private veterinarians. Also, I'll tout you on another article I found a little bit interesting this morning. Jay Cronley, who writes regularly about horse racing for ESPN.com, he actually was the scriptwriter for Let It Ride, a movie, Richard Dreyfuss. A lot of folks find that one of the better horse racing movies. It was a comedy, and Jay, typically in his columns for ESPN.com, takes a little bit of a humorous angle towards some of his horse racing topics. You can find him regularly on ESPN.com. But his latest article is kind of interesting. He asks the question, if you can stay home and watch the horse races, staying home costs less, it's cleaner, it's safer, it's less depressing after a loss, it affords a better view. Why go to the racetrack, he asks. Why go to a live horse race? And then he notes some reasons, and I found it kind of interesting. Jay says, according to my notes, here's why. Here's why I go to the races. I won more money more often at the live races, or lost less than with races watching on a TV screen. Being there is worth the effort. Reasons he finds why. The company is positive. That's always kind of fun when you're sitting there and you can celebrate with some others. I think we're all familiar with that, particularly right up here at Saratoga. It's always fun to bounce some ideas off other people, celebrate the victories, and commiserate the losses. He also says you can see things live that you can't see on a screen, and that's certainly for the body language kind of people. I think being on the track is very, very beneficial. I'm not one of those handicappers, but some people are very good at that. He also notes, though, and it's a great point, and I find this true when I'm up at Saratoga in the summertime, being at the live races slows you down. One focus beats betting 3 tracks simultaneously, and I think there is some truth to that. I thoroughly enjoy sitting in front of the computer, and I'll always look at what track is 5 minutes out, and let me make that bet, and then that race goes, and what one's coming. I do it. I have some success on some days and not so much on others, but certainly when you're up there at Saratoga Live and you have that laser focus just on the races there, it's a different approach. So it's fun. It's a good article by Jake Cronley, making the argument for going to the racetrack, because a lot of people think that, particularly some of these smaller racetracks, gee, why go to the racetrack when I could sit home and in the comfort of my own living room? There is something to be said for that, no question about it, particularly in a location like we are, where at this time of the year, going to at least a thoroughbred track is quite a trek. But if you got one in your backyard, there are certainly some reasons why making the move is beneficial. All right, we'll take our first break. When we come back, as promised, Teresa Gennaro of the Brooklyn Backstretch blog, also a contributor to Forbes.com, Pink Sheet in the Summertime, Blood Horse, many other publications. We'll jump in and get some of her thoughts, looking back, highlights of the 2013 racing season, right after this.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB Television Network.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Wagering at capitalotbbet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, happy to be joined now by Teresa Gennaro from the Brooklyn Backstretch blog and many other publications. Good morning, Teresa.
Morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. I said it at the top of the show. We tried to get you in last week. We were asking people for 2013 racing highlights last week. You were down in Florida, so we're all envious, certainly, because perfect timing. You missed the storm. You missed the crazy Arctic temperatures, although we're getting a little blast of that again today. But I have to ask you, make any racetrack visits?
I did. I went to Gulfstream on New Year's Day, and then I went for the stakes races last Saturday.
Nice. So you saw some of the 3-year-olds in action. Anything jump out at you?
Yeah, I was paying more attention to the stakes races, kind of at the other end of the spectrum. Christophe Clemence, Naples Bay, won the Marchouaz River. It was her last start, so it was nice to see that horse we've seen run up here in New York go out on a high note. And I believe breeding plans for her have already been announced, although I don't remember them off the top of my head. And then interesting story just in the Spectacular Bid there, which is an ungraded stakes race. It was won by a Virginia bred named Just Call Kenny. It's a 6-furlong race. And it went off, I think the horse went off at about 20-1, and the trainer said afterward that he hadn't intended to run him in it at all. He wanted to run the horse in an allowance race that didn't go, and he'd been sort of talked into running him in this stakes race. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah,
very. And that one also, I think, flattered just Joint Custody, the horse that's going to be kind of fun to watch from Maryland, because that one last time out, prior to running in the Spectacular Bid on the weekend, had been behind Joint Custody. So you're getting a little line through that one as well. All right, as noted, wanted to catch up with you, get some of your highlights on the 2013 racing season. As I noted, you write a lot about a lot of racing topics during the year for the various publications, not only your own blog, but Forbes.com, the Pink Sheet, the Blood Horse, and whatnot. So I wanted to tie in maybe some of the subjects you've touched on and what were some of the highlights vis-a-vis those articles and the racing season. And some of those, obviously you hit on some high-profile things during the year, and then some that might float under the radar otherwise. And one of those topics I wanted to touch on was Stud Muffin. You covered his retirement going back to actually late 2012 as he gets retired, but then you followed that up. We have a little video here of Stud Muffin for folks who remember the name, kind of a fan favorite, but maybe don't remember some of the performances. Going back to 2008, we have the Empire Classic. Stud Muffin is going to win that as the number 5 horse. We'll take a look at that. Stud Muffin, I'll remind people, 59 career starts, 14 wins, over $600,000. And again, we're watching him here back in 2008 win the Empire Classic. But Teresa, as I say, you followed his retirement, and then this year followed up that story as he got a second career.
Yeah, it was really great. As you said, he was a huge fan favorite. I mean, he was a gray, and people loved the grays, and he also came from behind, so he made things kind of exciting. And he just, he was a real stalwart on the New York scene. He raced so regularly that people got to know him pretty well. And he began to slow down in 2012, and thanks to the investment of a lot of people who are anonymous and Maggie Moss, we got off the track and he went up to live in Aikendale right in the last couple of days of 2012. And then he was chosen to be one of the participants in Stuart Pittman's retired racehorse training project. So his trainer at Aikendale, Heather Carlson, had 3 months to prepare him to participate in an exposition at Pimlico in early October, and he comported himself beautifully. She said that he's a great student. He learned all the different gaits that he needs to do. He's doing a little bit of jumping. He will never be sold. Aikendale is not shopping him to be out adopted. He has a home at Aikendale forever. But he is now Lucky Stud Muffin after spending most of his winters at Aqueduct, is now down in South Carolina training for the winter with Heather.
Very good. So that was one of certainly the feel-good stories. As I say, retired towards the end of 2012, but then following him, a nice fan favorite there on the New York scene for, going into the second career. Flip side of the coin, again, a more high-profile story. We're going to pick up now the Alabama from Saratoga, August 17th. We're going to watch Princess Asilmar winning for the second time at Saratoga this past year, winning the second Grade 1, won the Coaching Club American Oaks earlier in the meet. Princess Asilmar under Javier Castellano, the number 4 horse, runs away from 50 Shades of Hay, the Baffert shipper. At about this point in the year, we were thinking probably had the 3-year-old filly Eclipse locked up, but who knows, Beholder was going to come back and do what she did late in the season. But still, a very nice performance from Princess Asilmar. Steve Haskin had a column recently that said, Ed Stanko did all the right things. He won more than he lost, and I think everybody is applauding him for taking the shot out at the Breeders' Cup. But you, at about this time of the year that we're watching the Alabama, were shadowing Ed Stanko a little bit and writing about him and Princess Asilmar. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I got really lucky because in February or March of last year, Joe Clancy of the Saratoga Special and Mid-Atlantic Thoroughbred asked me to do a profile of Ed Stanko for their April magazine, which came out just a few weeks before the Kentucky Oaks. So I got to speak at length with Ed about the filly and kind of learn this amazing story. She's the first horse he ever bred. For most of 2013, she was the only horse he had in training. And, that's the kind of stuff you can't make up. If you wrote this, people wouldn't believe it. So, I write the profile of him in March or April, and then the filly goes on to win the Oaks at these unbelievable odds. I think she went off at 40-1. And at that point, it was just kind of this nice feel-good story. But she's also, another one who came out of Aqueduct. We were watching her up here in these really cold temperatures up here. She was winning some ungraded stakes last year, got her start to Churchill Downs at the Big A, and by the middle of the summer, she's sort of the toast of the racing world. And I think I agree with Steve and with you that Ed Stanko did everything right, and I don't mean that there's necessarily a certain way to do things, but he kind of decided early on he wanted to enjoy this filly. He recognized that she's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for him, and he had incredible good fortune, and he was accessible to fans. He was accessible to the media. He never said no to folks. He never was cranky. He just kept saying over and over again what an unbelievable experience it was, and he wanted to enjoy it till the very end. So, and he also, said early on that the championship was not, the be-all and end-all for him. It was going on the ride with this filly that he had bred.
Yeah, and certainly it's great to walk up and accept that statue, get the Eclipse Award. But as you kind of allude, it's you jump into the game and you get a horse like this. That's kind of a reward in and of itself. Particularly, you win a couple of grade ones at Saratoga, and for him especially, but also for the whole team involved, it had to be just great that old Eddie, as they came into the winner's circle after those two races. So you got to tip your cap to those connections.
And he, even though he lives, I can't remember whether it's in Pennsylvania or New Jersey, southern Jersey now, he grew up near Albany, and he sort of said all along that winning the Alabama was his dream. And to have a dream come true, it's not something that all of us get the chance to experience, and he did it, and I think racing is really lucky to have him, and here's hoping he gets a few more horses so we get to see him a lot next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And another Saratoga feel-good story. Just want to bring up Leah Giarmati. I think after the spin away, I don't think there was more smiles all meet long in the winner's circle. Leah Giarmati, another great story from 2013.
Yeah, absolutely. Leah's been training for a long time, and she's been around the racetrack since she was 16 years old. She grew up on Long Island. She rode horses competitively, and she decided she wanted to go work at the racetrack. And her father got her a job working for Alan Jerkins in the summer when she was 16 years old. And her dad sort of figured that this would cure her of her racetrack obsession. And I guess much to her dad's chagrin, quite the opposite happened. And she's had good horses here and there, but this is obviously she's really kind of turned a corner in the last year, winning the Jerome the other day as well. But winning a Grade 1 at Saratoga for an owner who has had a lot of faith in her, Jeff Treadway, has had horses with her for a while, and he too is kind of experiencing his first success as a horse owner. So it was really great to see her that day. And you say that maybe that was there were more smiles in the winner's circle that day than any other, and probably rivaled only when the Chief won a stakes race again as well. And I think they really bask in each other's successes. So that's a great story too.
Yeah, and you reminded me. I followed him out, and you were walking with him that day. I was maybe 20 yards behind, walking as he walked out of the winner's circle. Underneath the clubhouse first floor, and then out through the paddock. Probably took him about a half an hour. He personally is a fan favorite at this stage in his career, and all the way out, shaking hands and getting congratulations, and not just from the fans, but from other horsemen as well.
Yeah. I saw him in Florida last week. He's doing great. His stable's obviously smaller now, but if you ever get a chance to sit around and talk to him and let him tell some of his stories, it's just incredible. And it was him and his son Jimmy and trainer Mike Hushin, who also worked for him, and Here's hoping that he gets another horse and gets back to the winner's circle at Saratoga this year, too.
Yeah, that's certainly been another fun story. Let's talk about some of the other ones that hit your radar, either on the high or the low. Give us some of either the highlights or lowlights that were notable to you in 2013.
Well, sort of good news, bad news. I think in some ways, 2013 can be also seen as a turning point in thoroughbred aftercare with the launching of the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, with sales companies and consigners and breeders getting on board and all donating a percentage of their sales to Thoroughbred Aftercare, which enabled the organization to give out $1 million in grants in December to a variety of farms and organizations across the country. And I did a piece on that for the Racing Biz, where I talked to some Mid-Atlantic organizations about how they were going to use that money. And the grants were in varying amounts, but all of them said that those grants made a huge difference to them. And it's not just the money, it's also that they feel now that they have some legitimacy, because there are so many circumstances where money is put up, organizations depict themselves as quote-unquote rescues, but there's no accountability. And the fact that the TAA now accredits organizations, and it's a really, really rigorous process. It's like a 40-page application and multiple farm visits. And everybody I have talked to on the farm end of it has said that they really appreciate all the time and money investment that the TAA is putting into it. On the other side of the spectrum, this was the year, we had a year without Ramon Dominguez riding, which, for those of us here in New York is still an incredible loss. Ramon continues to be involved. He's on the Jockey Health Task Force up here in New York. But having him off the circuit through the year, I think there are some horses some of us look at and remember the way Ramon rode them and wish he could come back. And having Donnie V go down at the Breeders' Cup also. So we were without him for the last couple of months also. So I think that, we saw this year some of the best things in the sport, and we saw a lot of people stepping forward to do a lot of great things. But we also have all of these reminders that it's a dangerous game. And one of them that you and I have talked about is when Saginaw broke down at Saratoga, which just, sort of crushed the heart out of a lot of us. Even, some of the most hardened horse players watch him get pulled off, and our stomachs just sank.
Yeah, and of course we had another one of those gut punches over the weekend as well with Cash Electronica, and it really takes the wind out of your sails, those kind of things. And Saginaw was a similar type of a horse, a fan favorite, kind of an overachiever. And so, yeah, that Saratoga, that certainly was another important story from 2013. On the low light side, but you got to recognize those as well. And there was, as you noted, plenty of highlights. I've said it before, and you brought up some more of them. I thought 2013, there was some great news stories. I've mentioned the resurgence of racing in Maryland, but you bring in Thoroughbred Aftercare. I think on the news side, that was good. There was human elements. You brought up the loss of Ramon Dominguez. But also Gary Stevens has been mentioned by just about everybody as a highlight of 2013, the comeback from the retirement, and a guy like Ken Ramsey. And then on the equine side, I think there was all kinds of fun stories, particularly with horses who were coming back. But for me, the 3-year-old season, I thought a little bit undefined until the end with Will Take Charge, but I thought it was very entertaining all along. And then Mike Veach brought up in his year-end column that I hadn't even touched on, but you mentioned it today, the 3-year-old filly division. You mentioned Princess Asilmar, and Mike Veach throws in Beholder, and you had Close Hatches and Emoliant. So I think horses, humans, and news stories, I thought 2013 was pretty special for horse racing.
Yeah, and I may be in the minority here, but I actually kind of liked that there was no dominant 3-year-old colt. I mean, it kept things interesting. We had to pay attention to, all of the horses through the whole year. There were various times when we thought Palace Malice was going to rise to the top of the division. What was Orb going to do? I mean, I just think it actually kept a lot of interest and excitement going through much of the season, where when you have one of those really dominant ones early on, things are kind of wrapped up early. And I like that we really had to pay attention to racing until the end of November to figure out who the 3-year-old champion was going to be.
Yeah, and that was exactly my point as well. It was entertaining. After the Derby, you thought, oh, it's Orb. And then it didn't turn out that way. And then the Haskells run, and everybody says, oh, Verrazano. And then it didn't turn out that way. And finally, at the end of the year, Will Take Charge kind of takes charge. And so for me, it was a very entertaining 3-year-old season, no question about it. Well, as a writer yourself, a member of the media, again, a contributor to numerous publications, I just want to get your thoughts, because we've talked about it the past few days. The Media Eclipse Awards have been announced towards the end of last week. And I thought they kind of hit a home run on all fronts. I thought the photo this year was very good. Kind of, they've over the past 10 or 12 years, they've had some repeats that people were maybe a little scratching their head about a little bit. But I thought this year's photo was interesting and fun. The story behind the photographer herself being married to a jockey. And then on the print side, interesting, I thought the multimedia profile of Russell Bays in the New York Times was a job well done. But I think everybody has to agree that Marty McGee piece on Kent DeSormo was just a home run.
Yeah, I was sitting next to Marty when I read that story for the first time at Keeneland in April. I had gone down for a weekend, and I was sitting in the press box, and I think I looked up at him, and somebody else was reading it at the same time, and somebody else in the press box said, well, I guess we can stop the voting for the Eclipse Awards now. And obviously there was a ton of other great writing that came out through the rest of the year, but I thought, he did such a great job of capturing the situation, obviously put so much work into it, traveling down, talking to various parts of the DeSormo family, came at the story from so many different angles, and captured kind of both the internal conflict and the external conflicts in it without ever kind of going over the top and getting too dramatic about it. It was, in fact, I teach high school and I teach a nonfiction writing class, and it was the example this year that I used in my class of a profile.
Yeah,
and the kids loved it.
Yeah, and when it came out, the buzz was already there, as you say. You just knew this was a special piece, and it was a delicate topic. He did a great job with it, got people to become involved, and it really was a great job. And my partner on Sunday on Loose on the Lead, Steve Bick, he made the great point. You also had that Layden piece on Jeff Lucas, which probably any other year may have been the go-to piece, but Marty's was just so good. And as you noted, there was a lot of good work out there. But I just thought the Media Eclipse Awards across the board, I thought they... And I also should mention the HRTV documentary, the Saratoga Warhorse documentary, has a little local connection. So hats off to them as well.
Yep, agreed.
All right, Teresa, I'm going to wrap things up, but certainly appreciate the visit, taking a little look back at 2013. And again, you've written about a lot of the topics, so we're kind of tying that in, the various publications you write for during the year. And I assume we will see plenty more of that. Anything in the pipeline now that we should be looking for?
Working on a couple of things. One is on the Take the Lead and Take Two program from the New York Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association, where if you've got a horse at one of the NYRA tracks that needs to be retired, you contact the person on track. Rick Schosberg is often the guy who does that. You had him on the show this summer at Saratoga talking about it. And they work with a variety of farms, including New Vocations and Aikendale, and try to get the horse up there and get retrained. And I know that they're pushing really hard to make sure that trainers are getting horses off the track while they are in still good enough shape to be retrained. So working on something about that for Forbes, and that's what I'm really looking forward to getting out there.
Sounds good. All right, we will look for it ourselves. Teresa, again, thanks for the visit. We'll talk to you again.
Take care, Seth. Happy New Year.
Thanks a lot. Teresa Gennaro, Brooklyn Backstretch blog, Forbes.com. As she said, the racing biz. She's over there for the Clancy brothers. All over the place you can find her work, and we typically link to it on Equidaily as well. We'll take another break. When we come back, got a couple of races from the past weekend we'll take a quick look at, and then we'll go back to another break, and we'll wind up the show, Michael Chamberlain at Turf Paradise. So stay tuned. All of that as Racing Across America continues.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today. Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Again, I got a couple of quick races to take a look at before we go to our next break. But we've talked a bunch this past week or so about when the calendar turned. Obviously, the 2-year-olds became 3-year-olds, and we've had some 3-year-old races back New Year's Day, Gulfstream Park Derby, and then over the weekend, the Jerome, and et cetera, Pasco down at Tampa, spectacular bid. But the 3-year-old girls had some racing this weekend, too. So I just wanted to take a look at those. Obviously, we're on the road to the Kentucky Oaks as well as the Kentucky Derby. So, we had a couple of sprint races. Not sure whether these horses will stretch out, but we're at that time of year where, again, these are barometer kind of races. People are seeing what they have. First up, we're going to take a look at Saturday's Old Hat Stakes from Gulfstream Park. It was a Grade 3 event, $100,000 purse. 3-year-old fillies going 3/4 of a mile. It's going to be number 1, Sweet Whiskey, getting it done over the number 5, Coca-Cola. These are both Todd Pletcher trainees. Sweet Whiskey had broken the maiden in the career debut up at Saratoga. They went right from there into the Spinaway, ran 4th there. Subsequently, the Matron ran 2nd, had been off since that Matron in September. Sweet Whiskey on the comeback, wins the Old Hat this weekend for Todd Pletcher. Again, Coca-Cola also for Pletcher, running 2nd. The Pletcher Exacta, $21. But it was Javier Castellano on board, Sweet Whiskey, getting it done, a daughter of Old Fashioned. Again, you don't know whether these are going to be the kind of horses they'll stretch out or not, but just interesting to keep our eyes on these 3-year-olds, both the boys and the girls, at this point in the season. We'll shift our attention now over to the other side of the state. On Saturday was the Gasparilla $100,000 purse. 4 3-year-old fillies over there. They went 7 furlongs, and we're going to watch the number 4 Nesso win the Gasparilla on Saturday. Nesso, who was coming out of a couple of races in Southern California, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly Turf, wound up 10th there after being in the lead early. After that was in the Miesque, ran 4th there. Now moves over to the dirt at Tampa Bay on Saturday, and Nesso gets it done 4-1, 4-1 second choice? No, 4-1 third choice. The favorite Enquete at 2-1 winds up 8th in the field of 9, so a little bit of a dud from the favorite in there, Enquete, who went out for Todd Pletcher. So some mixed results for Pletcher on Saturday with the 3-year-old fillies. But Nesso, who in 5 career starts prior to the Gasparilla, 4 of those had been on the turf. Career debut was on the dirt at Calder back in June. Was claimed out of that event for $25,000. Subsequently went in some stakes races on the turf. Moved back to the dirt on Saturday, though, so Nesso could be interesting to watch going forward as well. That one has tried a mile already on the turf, so this may be an interesting horse stretching out to 2 turns on the dirt. Nesso gets it done in the Gasparilla. Again, look at some of the 3-year-old fillies from this past weekend. All right, we'll take our last break of the hour. When we come back, Michael Chamberlain gets some ideas on Turf Paradise for this afternoon. Stay tuned.
I'm Jeff Carl. Join me Saturdays and Sundays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the weekend in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekends at 9, only here on the OTB TV network.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
This is Steve Beck. Join me Tuesday through Saturday here on OTB TV for At the Races, my Sirius XM daily news magazine of the thoroughbred industry. Handicapping, interviews, analysis, everything you could want. 6 a.m. OTB TV.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Tuesday morning means a regular visit from Michael Chamberlain at Turf Paradise. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Happy to have you on board. Give us a little weather update. We're in the deep freeze up here, and there is not a lot of action. You guys are going to be getting a lot of eyeballs on Racing at Turf Paradise this afternoon. What's your weather?
Well, we are going to be high 60s and sunny, so I don't want to make you hate me, but that's the case. It's going to be 68 degrees here. Sunny, some cloud cover, I think, throughout the course of the afternoon, but nothing that's going to prevent us from getting down to business at Turf Paradise today.
We like the envy. We like being able to look out and live vicariously. We like knowing somebody's warm. That gives you some solace, I think, because it's like a refrigerator up here today. All right, I mentioned earlier on the show, I was handicapped Turf Paradise actually on the Handicappers Report earlier, and I was talking about Robertino Diodoro and saying we were going to get a little update. We're far enough into the meet now to talk a little trainers and jockeys. We'll do that in a couple of minutes. Before we do that, however, get a couple ideas from you on races for this afternoon. You're going to kick things off, giving us a little insight in race number 5. Conditional claimer at the $10,000 level. Non-winners at 2 lifetime. They're going a mile. And I put the number 2 Livin' Lovin' Man on top. I thought on the stretch out, this horse could be a little bit interesting, but you have another horse in your mix.
Well, we're actually thinking the same thought process here because you mentioned Robertino Diodoro. I think his horse in here is very vulnerable as the morning line favorite, Brenda's Bar. The dirt form is nothing like the turf form that this gelding has exhibited. So I went looking for a price myself. And while I think your horse does have a definite chance with Carreño aboard, I'm going to go to the hot apprentice Skylar Whiteshield on a 10-to-1 shot, number 4, Socratical. This is a Dan McFarland trainee. McFarland is in the top 5 in our trainer standings right now. Tried the turf last time out, and that was kind of a not great experience for him, to put it nicely. I ended up winning 10th out of 10. I will look back at the 2 dirt races that this horse had. He tried Allowance Company back in November, ended up winning 6th, and kind of lost some ground toward the end of it at 6.5 furlongs. And the other race back in October of 2012 was a very nice maiden race win as the betting favorite, winning by over 4.5 lengths. So there is some good dirt pedigree on this horse's past performances. And I think the price is right here, especially with that McFarland-Whiteshield combination going forward here at 10-to-1 with number 4, Socratical.
Yeah, the one that attracts, a couple of things attract my attention. Lightly raced, and so just kind of got a fresh face thing going there. And then the class relief maybe moving in for the tag is kind of interesting as well. I didn't put that one in my mix, but I'm with you. It's a race where I think you can play around a little bit and maybe take a little bit of a shot. I had the Diodoro horse right underneath, but I think that horse is a little bit vulnerable. All right, let's look out at the 7th today. Conditional claimer, $3,500 tags. These are non-winners of 3 lifetime, 4-year-olds and up. And Michael, great minds think alike. You and I, same top selection.
I like that 3 horse, and again, it's the same combination for me with trainer Dan McFarland and jockey Skylar Whiteshield. This horse tried a mile last time out, and I think that was not up to his liking either. So we've got 2 horses that really didn't like the way things went last time out that were given out today. But I do like the fact that this horse, the last time at this 6 furlong distance, on October 29th, scored a very nice win at significantly less than even money in the non-winners of 2 range. Since coming up to non-winners of 3, the 2 previous dirt races to that last try were third-place finishes, and I think that you're going to get a bit of a comeback effort here from Unusual Mystery number 3 in race 7. I really like this horse's chances today, and very nearly was a single in the pick 5 for me, but I just couldn't go that far with it because I also think that the 1 Talk the Walk and the 4 Timeless Storm might be right there at the end as well. So I'm 3 deep in the pick 5 play of the day today, but I do like the 3 on top very much.
I had the same 3. I had the 3 over the 1. Same, and really the same thought process as well. I thought the cutback on this one could be a rebound to some of the prior good numbers. So Unusual Mystery was on top for me as well. As you mentioned, Skylar Whiteshield on top there, and we want to talk a little bit about him as an apprentice as we get to some of the jockey talk. As noted, we're deep enough into the meet now where it may be a little bit of a, our viewers certainly on Mondays and Tuesdays are taking a look at Turf Paradise. The rest of the week maybe not as keyed in. So some of the jockeys and trainers may be a little bit unfamiliar to them. So I thought we could give them a little bit of a heads up. And again, we're deep enough into the meet now that I think things are sorting themselves out a little bit. On the jockey side, Jorge Carreno on top pretty comfortably. A jockey you and I have talked about on the show before, Scott Stevens, brother to Gary, in second, Ian Von Rosen, Giovanni Franco, and then in the 5th spot, as far as the number of wins, is the apprentice Skylar Whitefield. Give us some of your ideas on the top jockeys currently at the meet.
Well, I mean, Carreno is going to go on and win the jockey title here, barring anything unforeseen. But as you said, Scott Stevens has. I know he touched on this a little bit during last season too, and he has really had a career resurgence here at Turf Paradise. I often joke with him when I talk to him. I said, if we ever build a Turf Paradise Hall of Fame, he is going to be the cornerstone right in it because he has been here for a long time and he has been winning races here for a long time and always a familiar face to our fans. Anne Von Rosen has kind of taken the baton as our top lady jockey here because the last few years we have had a very impressive female jockey colony. Names such as Tammy Pierre-Marini, who went on to do some very nice things at Suffolk Downs, and she's kind of come back here on occasion to ride some races. Vicky Bays was riding here up until this season. In fact, she got her 2000th win just last year here at Turf Paradise. So the female jockey colony is always a strong one here at Turf Paradise. And Von Rosen seems to get the best of that, especially when she teams up with trainer Mike Chambers, who is often one of our top trainers. He's not up with Robertino Diodoro this year yet, but those jockeys are very strong. And as I said, as we were talking about the apprentice Skylar Whiteshield, he started winning races right from the get-go this season, and he's just carried that right on through, and it's been very nice to see.
Yeah, as I've been handicapping the track, he has certainly attracted my attention. So there are some jockeys to keep your eyes on. Now on the trainer's side of the equation, Robertino Diodoro on top. And I found it interesting, pulled up a little article about him from the Canterbury Park website. He is a native Canadian, spent the early part of his life playing a little bit of hockey up in Canada, but now he's spending the winters down at your track as a trainer very successfully. He's clearly on top as far as races won at the meet so far. Jeff Metz second, Miguel Angel Silva third, Dan McFarlane fourth, and Manuel Ortiz in a tie with Mike Chambers in the 5th spot. Give us some of your ideas on the trainers out there.
Well, the last one you mentioned there, Manuel Ortiz, he has been winning races in bunches as well. I think his winning percentage is something obscene, like nearly 40%. So, and he won another one yesterday that knocked me out of the pick 5 because I was stupid enough to leave him out. But he is definitely a trainer that you need to pay attention to here at Turf Paradise. Robertino Diodoro, I mean, he is making his name felt now in Southern California. He had Broadway Empire that ran in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile this year also, and he sticks with those Canadian roots, though. He does have a string that goes back up to Northlands Park in Edmonton every year in Alberta, and so he stays close to Canada and keeps his attention to the Great White North. But the trainer Jeff Metz has been winning a lot of races. Miguel Silva, he's actually his Silva Racing is actually the leading owner this season here at Turf Paradise as well.
Very interesting. And Michael, before I let you go, I just wanted to ask, we talked a little bit about it on the Handicappers Report yesterday, as again, I was looking at Turf Paradise. No turf the past couple of days out there.
We are saving the turf for our Cotton Fitzsimmons Mile, which is coming up on January 18th. part of our 58th anniversary celebration. We have a big party. We give out free cake to our fans. We have some deals and some giveaways that we're doing. Very nice pack-up hat that we're giving out. And on that day, we get back on the turf and run the Cotton Fitzsimmons Mile, and we want to have that turf looking absolutely perfect for that race. So we're saving this for a couple weeks, but we'll be back on that turf before you know it.
Okay, all right. And we were wondering if maybe there was something like that was the reason behind it, but I just thought I'd check. Michael, certainly appreciate the visit as always. Good luck with the racing this afternoon. We'll talk to you again next week.
Talk to you next week.
All right, Michael Chamberlain from Turf Paradise. A little earlier on, Teresa Gennaro, Brooklyn Backstretch blog, doing a little recap of some of the highlights and lowlights of 2013. So, jam-packed show again this morning. Do want to note once again, Parks, Charlestown, and Beulah. Parks, Charlestown, and Beulah have canceled. So there is a limited racing schedule today. Because of that, should note that the parlors, there you see, there's only 5 tracks, and the last one is Northfield that goes off at 6. That means there's very limited action today, and because of that, the parlors, I will alert you, the parlors that are normally open until 11 will be closing at 6:30. Parlors that close earlier will obviously close at their normal times, but the parlors around the area that are open until 11 normally will close at 6:30 today. The race book itself will close at 7 tonight, so there's going to be some early closures just because there's very, very limited action today. But enough action that we can all cash some tickets. Hopefully we gave you some good info both on Racing Across America and earlier on the Handicappers Report. That will wrap things up for Racing Across America for this Tuesday morning. We're here every Monday through Friday from 10 until 11 a.m. Again, earlier on, the Handicappers Report, it was myself and Mike Jarbo looking at Turf Paradise and Sunland. They're 2 of the 5 tracks that will be in action today, both on the thoroughbred and the harness side. Hopefully we gave you some good information. So by all means, cash some tickets. We'll see you again in here tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.